Hello and welcome to Introduction to Statistics online at Grace College. I'm Dr. Ryan Johnson and I'm the one who designed this course, although I might not be your instructor for this course. There might be someone else. And I just want to give you a tour of Canvas and other important things for this course. So first I'm going to start off with the syllabus. There are three main goals for this course. And the first one is that you will build skills in understanding and communicating data. And that's going to be a goal that we're going to be dealing with throughout the course. The second goal will be that you will demonstrate understanding of the foundation of statistics. And this goal we're going to work on the first half of the course, like the first 4 weeks or 3.5 weeks. And then the second half of the course is working on this goal. You'll be able to complete statistical inference in many situations. And so the flavor of the course is going to be, the first half is going to be a lot of foundational stuff. And some things we're going to hit 2, 3, 4 times just to build a good foundation. And the second half of the course, we start going through a lot of different situations. So like, here's how to do stats in this situation. Here's how to do it in this situation. And hopefully we built a good foundation that we're ready to just do that well. I want to talk about the grading and the type of assignments and the grades in this course. So, and this is related to the textbook we're using. So the textbook we're using is called Statistical Investigations. And if you were to buy the actual textbook, you would see a spiral on the cover. And that kind of matches the style of how we're doing learning and assessment of learning in this course. And so there's going to be lots of things that you see multiple times, kind of like a spiral, but you see them in different ways. So for instance, 5% of your grade is just participation, and there's going to be discussion posts, but they're not the normal type of discussion posts in this course. The first one is kind of, but most of the discussion posts are just asking for, we just need some data. So I might need you to flip a coin like 10 or 20 times and post your results, or I might need you to give us the days of the year of the birthdays of like 9 people you know, so that we have class data to do some of our homework. Just make sure those due dates are not at the end of the week. They're usually towards the beginning of the week. So just be aware of those. And then reading homework, that's going to be our textbook is an online textbook. And so if you should have gotten either your code through Slingshot, but if you chose, I don't remember exactly how this works, but if your account with Slingshot is not to get free textbooks, then that's going to be an issue, because you either need to have that agreement with Slingshot so that they pay for the textbook, or you need to buy it yourself, because it's going to be like at this point when I'm making this video, it's somewhere around $65. So it's an online textbook and you just need to purchase it. So on that textbook, there's reading activities, which is where there's going to be, as you read, there's going to be some little video things you need to click through, and there's going to be little quizzes in between. And that's just measuring that you are actually reading the material. And at the end of each section, not chapter 1, but all the sections afterwards, there's going to be a couple challenge questions, and you have lots of different tries to do those, but you need to get those done. So those are also 10% of your grade. And then there's going to be open-ended questions, which we call the worksheets. And those count as much as the reading and challenges combined, because that's a higher level on the spiral staircase of the same stuff, but now you're instead of like clicking through it or having infinite tries, then you have just one try. So you should try the challenge activities before you do the worksheet to have a good sense of like how to do things. And then similarly, there's also going to be quizzes in the course, and they're only 5% of the grade, because I expect you to, like, It's not always easy to do quiz right the first time, but they are preparing you for the final exam. And so, however you do on the quizzes, make sure you're learning from your mistakes so that you're better prepared for the final exam. And finally, there's going to be a final project in this class, and so the final project and final exam make up half of your grade. So that's important to be thinking about because everything builds towards your ability to really do statistics at the end of this course. And so we'll talk about that later in the class about what to do for that final project. The grading scale is the standard grading scale for most of Grace College, so don't need to talk about that, and the standard policies. So let's talk about some of the specifics of this course. Well, say in each week there's about 4 different sections we're going to cover per week, except for the last week. The last week is just do the final exam, finish the project. So there's going to be roughly 4 sections. The very first one is not very normal because it's more of review of high school stuff, and so there's no worksheet with it, so you would click there, and that would lead you to here. And so then there's there's information, and then say this table right here is some crucial information because later on you're asked to do a matching question matching that table, so to see that you're actually getting it. And then for the 2 open-ended questions here, there's one in this section, there might be one in another section. Those are the discussion posts for this week, so just copy and paste those into the discussion posts in Canvas as well. But then chapter 1's not as usual. So section 2.1 is more of the usual routine of this course. So let's look at the things to do for section 2.1. So the first thing is the coin flipping activity, and so that should be done fairly early in the week. You just got to flip a coin and tell us your data. That way we have class data for the worksheets. Then there's the reading assignment, section 2.1. And then you're going to complete the challenge activity at the bottom. So let's go over the textbook and let's jump over to section 2.1. So section 2, chapter 2, section 2.1. And so in the textbook, section 2.1, you're going to learn about can dolphins communicate, and you'll find that our authors really love animals. There's lots of things involving animals. And then at the there's challenge activities. So there's 4 questions, and you need to kind of answer those questions. Those will try to assess if you kind of understood some of the reading stuff. And so then after the challenge, so reading, then the challenge activities at the bottom, those 4 questions. And then there's going to be worksheet questions. And so this link right here goes to this really large PDF of all the worksheets, and you would turn it in here. Let's go back a little bit and talk about in the student resources, there's the worksheets right here. So it's a large PDF. I recommend that you download it and then open it with a browser. So you could open it with Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge or Apple Safari. If you do that, then it would look like I'm opening mine in Chrome. And then if you go to this button here, and then instead of doing this thing, do this guy, and it's in sections. So you can go, there's preliminaries, that's chapter 1, then there's 2.1 right there. So you can jump to the sections easily. Some browsers even let you print section if you right click on the section, or you can just kind of measure what page you're on and whatnot. So I would recommend finding a way to print this whole thing out, if that's not an option, then just getting really good at going back and forth in it in your browser. Okay? Yeah, don't buy anything from Adobe to look at the PDF. You can always view PDFs in your browser. Okay, then for the worksheets, I want to also point out that there's a particular way I want you to answer these worksheet questions, and that's just the nature of this online course. It's easier if we have all the same template for how we answer the questions. So in the student resources, there's this worksheet template dot, and so then it would look like this. So section like 2.1 worksheet by first name, last name, change those to yours, and then like answer to number 1, answer to number 2, and then try to use the natural numbering that's in Word or Apple Pages or Google Docs, and then that's this way. It's easiest for me to grade. So use that template for your turning in the worksheets, and then at the end, and then normally when I teach this in class, when I teach it as an on-ground course, we have a lot of time to work on the worksheets in class. And so for the online class, I've created a lot of videos to help you. And so there's these videos that I've made that can help you, hopefully, with the worksheets, gives you lots of information as you work on the worksheets. And then there's going to be a quiz like roughly every 2 sections. So be prepared for that. And that kind of gives you hopefully a good start to the course. There's one last thing. So in the worksheets, they're sometimes going to refer to applets. So in the student resources, there's a link to the applets. And so this course is very kind of technology independent. Some stats courses try to teach you stats with Excel. Some try to teach you it with Minitab. Some try to teach you with R. And this course is just going to use applets. We're trying to not let the technology slow you down. So we've tried to make all the technology much easier, and that way we're only focusing on the statistics. So when we refer to different applets in the worksheets, this is where you can find them right here. Okay. Well, I hope you learn a lot, and hope that this class goes well for you. All right. Thanks. Bye.